Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope everyone's had a great beginning to their new week out there so far. We have a lot to discuss in tonight's video as we're going to continue to try to figure out what's next with the weather. And what we do know is, and I say we are pretty confident in this, is that we're going to have a new pattern that's going to support widespread wall-to-wall cold for the entire lower 48. I would say the only area that might escape the worst of this cold is the extreme western US. But everybody else, Arctic air is on the way, especially for the central and eastern US. So we're going to speak on that, and then we're going to speak on winter storm chances that are also going to come with all this cold air dropping down out of not only Canada, but the source region of this cold air is going to be like from Siberia. So pretty wild stuff. So the first thing we'll go over is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. They have issued a graphic. They issued it this afternoon, and this is from the National Weather Service, the Climate Prediction Center, the actual experts, and they are pretty much calling this an Arctic outbreak. So this is the real deal, and we'll discuss that. And then we'll go over model guidance and just show you guys what it's showing as far as how cold these temperatures could be compared to average. We'll speak on that, and then we'll speak on all model guidance as far as what time frames are we watching as far as maybe winter storm chances. And listen, this is going to be another pattern that supports winter weather chances pretty far south. So we'll go over all that, and then at the very end of the video, we'll kind of nerd out with you guys and really just explain what's driving this pattern coming up, what's causing the dislodgement once again of all this cold air spilling down to the lower 48. So we're going to speak on it all. Timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. Definitely utilize them. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. So the latest from the Climate Prediction Center, and I always forget what this runs through, is from the 19th through the 23rd. So this is the 6 to 10-day outlook, the temperature outlook in this case. So in this purple color, that's a 90% chance of temperatures being below normal in this time frame. Kind of somewhat lighter shade of purple, 80% chance of temperatures being below normal. This is a 70, this is a 60, 50, 40, 33. Okay, so almost wall-to-wall cold, right? Almost the entire lower 48 is going to be pretty darn cold, but the highest confidence and probably the core of the coldest air just in this time frame. And I want to reiterate that because it's going to get cold between now and the 19th. The cold is already going to be coming down into the lower 48 as close to us as like Friday of this week here in the next few days. It'll start spilling down out of Canada. So it'll get cold before then, but between this time frame, the 19th and the 23rd, this is when the core of the coldest air is going to be. Now, your next question is, what is their outlook as far as precipitation? So just kind of freeze that image in your head. And if we look at precipitation, you know, where the core of the coldest air is going to be, you're probably going to have a higher chance of it being drier. So if I click on this color right here, that's a 40% chance of precipitation being below normal. This is a 33% chance. And then you get into the grayed out area. It's very exact, a 36% chance of precipitation being around normal. But once you're starting to get to the green, which by the way doesn't necessarily mean rain, because remember they're going for below average temperatures in the heart of winter, January, a 33% chance of precipitation being above normal. And then once you get kind of down here in the South, Georgia, Florida, 40% chance. Same kind of deal up here, right? So you can almost tell by just looking at this graphic where the jet is coming down. It's coming right down into here and then into the southern tier of the country and then up the eastern U.S. And what I want you to notice is around the I-95 corridor, you're seeing that little bit of green too. That will kind of slip your vision if you don't look at it. And honestly, when I looked at it and I pulled this graphic up earlier, I didn't even notice that. So, you know, hey, leaning towards wetter, even kind of along and just east of the I-95 corridor. And then you switch it back to the temperatures, and I want to look at the 8 to 14 day outlook. So this takes us from the 21st through the 27th. So, I mean, this is getting almost all the way to the end of the month at this point, and still going for almost wall-to-wall cold. The only area that's escaping it is the western U.S., extreme kind of western, southwestern portion of the country. So you click on this, 70% chance of temperatures being below normal, 60, 50, 40, 33. And then once again, you look at the precipitation outlook, still leaning towards more precipitation than not in the green color down here. 33, 40% chance of precipitation being above normal, and kind of the same similar feature up here. And you can just tell that, and I'm going to explain this more towards the end of the video, where that jet is sitting and where the energy is coming. leaning towards drier in the middle of the country. So absolutely, yes, if you live in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, there's a chance you're just going to be high and dry and very, very cold. But that might not be the case. So that is the outlook. Now, the Climate Prediction Center issued this outlook today. Arctic air outbreak anticipated for much of the central, eastern, and southern U.S. So this is the real deal. There's the National Weather Service logo, not just some random dude, me on YouTube speaking on the weather. This is what the experts are saying. And, if you want to pause the screen and read this, just speaks on the cold. But what gets me, it says, while some moderation in temperatures may occur during the middle of next week, the overall pattern is anticipated to remain favorable for additional cold air outbreaks into the lower 48 to close the month of January. So it just looks like we're going to go through the entire month of just cold, 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 which is not common. Frozen precipitation is also possible in locations where moisture interacts with the cold air. And then it just talks about, the question marks of all that, which certainly are there. So legit graphic from the folks at the National Weather Service. Now, let's speak on how cold the temperatures can be compared to average. Now, this does take you knowing what your average temperature is for this time of the year. For example, you might live in the north central U.S. where your average high temperatures are already below freezing. Or you might live in the southern tier of the country where your average high temperatures are in the upper 40s or low 50s. So it's important to know that. There's ways to figure out. Just do a quick Google search or look at your National Weather Service office that's close to you, and you can find this information out. And I need to probably put a link in the comments or something. But anyways, let's not get off track. So we're going to start this off Friday morning. And the timestamps part is going to confuse people. That's been probably the biggest question in the comments is, Mitch, can you figure out a way to show us what the timing is? And about the best thing I can say is, without spending hours of editing these videos every single day, is it's right here. And I know it's pretty small, like FRI Jan 17, and it says it right up here too. So I'm going to try to say the days as we go also, but I just want to tell you guys it's up there. So we're going to start off Friday morning. Look at these well above average temperatures. You're thinking, well, what Arctic blast? Watch how fast this changes. So we're getting into Saturday. You can already see it's starting to change. Okay, so where you're seeing these like 15, 16 degrees right here, this is above average. So these are where temperatures are above your average lows or highs or middle of the afternoon temperatures for this time of the year. This is the below average temperatures, the blues, the greens, the purples. Okay, you can even see the negative marks beside the number. So as we're getting into the middle portion of this coming weekend, we're not talking about something way on out. This is this coming weekend. Brutally cold begins to spill into the high plains and then making it all the way down to the southern plains, taking over the central U.S., and this is Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 19th. And then we continue to progress this forward. We're getting all the way into next Monday. So we're about 6.5 days out. Look at these anomalies. So, for example, Dallas-Fort Worth, maybe your average high is around 50, maybe give or take 5 degrees. They're going for, in this case, temperatures that are 25 degrees below average. So maybe your high temperatures next Monday could be in the 20s or 30s. It's very possible. But look at this. We're getting in the Monday, January 20th. We're getting in the next Tuesday. Begins to moderate somewhat across the central U.S. And guys, this is the Euro ensemble. This is a very reliable model source and for a long-range model, okay? This doesn't typically overblow things. It's pretty reliable. And we get a little bit of a moderation, but do we get a kind of a reload of the cold air? Not sure. It honestly, on the Euro ensemble, it really shows one big blast of cold air. But that might not be the case. So really, it's this weekend into early next week. Now, we look at, say, the eastern U.S., okay? This is Saturday. I've been talking about this locally to people. If you need to get any yard work done across the southeast or anywhere across the eastern U.S., I would try to find a way to get it done this weekend. The thing that stinks is we're going to be dealing with rain across the eastern U.S., the southern tier of the country, this weekend. So, of course, that's going to be tough to do any yard work or anything like that. But just try to do it because the cold is going to be unbearable for most people. So this is this coming Saturday, January the 18th. I mean, you got above average temperatures across the deep south, around neutral, around the southeast and northeast above average. And then once again, here comes this cold blast. By the time you're on Sunday, this cold front's making its way through the deep south, the mid-south, the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, starting to get into the mid-Atlantic. And then by the time we get into Monday, this thing is pretty much crossing all the way through the entire eastern U.S. Okay, at this point, we're into Monday, next Monday, a week from today. Temperatures are, I mean, you see it, right? 20 30 degrees below average in these areas. And then in the immediate eastern U.S., it hasn't really got super cold yet, but it does. Watch as it begins to ooze across the eastern U.S. and just brutally cold temperatures as we get into early to midway next week. I mean, anywhere from 10 to as much as 25 to 30 degrees below average. This is just crazy cold. Your next question is, well, it was showing this a couple of weeks ago and it didn't end up getting that cold. And I would say, yeah, you're exactly right. Could this happen again with this? Absolutely. I honestly think that this air mass will moderate. I don't think it's going to be as brutally cold as what it's showing, but it very well could. And it has verified that way in the past. I mean, 2021 was a great example. Last year was a great example. But if we're just looking at one operational run off the Euro, okay, I know I'm spending a lot of time on the temperatures, but I think it's very important because this could be life-threatening. We lucked out with the last cold outbreak. It was not as cold as forecast. We might not luck out with this one. Well, we're getting into, and this is just one run of the Euro. We're getting into Saturday, the 18th. There it is, dates up here. Look at the cold front. You can see where it is. You can see the freezing line. Watch how it continues to dig south. We're getting into this coming Sunday. We're getting into Monday, okay, the 20th. We're getting into next Tuesday, 21st. These are low temperatures predicted by the Euro. I mean, going for deep into the teens, all the way down to the Gulf coastline, all the way down to North Florida. And then these are like high temperatures, around high temperatures next Tuesday. I mean, sub-freezing temperatures all the way down to the Gulf coastline. Okay, and then is there going to be a reinforcing shot? The Euro says, yeah, day 10, here comes another shot of cold air. So, I mean, these are very cold temperatures. Then at the very end of the run, it does it again, drops another cold front. And then this is further out to the west. So, yeah, cold air is on the way. Now, let's go over all the model guides. People are wondering, are we going to get a winter storm? Will we not? I don't know the answer to that. What I can tell you is I'm pretty confident we're going to have winter weather for somebody in this pattern. Just trying to figure out who. So we'll start off for Friday afternoon. Cold air is just starting to get into the northern sections of the lower 48. And you can see with that 540 line. You see this 540 line right here? That's the 32-degree line aloft in the upper levels of the atmosphere, okay? And that's a good way when you're just looking at the surface precipitation map on the gauge and where the cold air is without actually looking at temperatures. So one thing I'll tell you right off the dot, there's going to be two things happening. One is you're going to have a lot of energy shooting down from this dip in this basically is trough digging down out of Canada. So this energy will basically translate to snow across the high plains, the Rockies. I think Denver's going to get some accumulating snow. At the same time, you already have pieces of energy riding the boundary that's going to be setting up right into here. So here comes our first system. And this is going to bring a rainy weekend, unfortunately, for the Southeast. So you're trying to take advantage of those warmer temperatures, right? Well, you're probably going to get rained on. Could get a little winter weather for the Northeast. I don't expect much out of this first system. Here comes the snow riding down with this cold front. Happens a lot with these, people out in the central U.S., they call them blue northers. And this will be one like that. This will be a cold front that you'll probably be able to feel when it moves through this weekend. I'm going to be interesting just kind of watching observations out here. But you continue to move forward, and the latest Euro has snow kind of breaking out, some light snow across Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas as we're getting into Sunday. And then we're starting to get into, remember, the time frames are up here. Okay, we're starting to get into Monday morning, January the 20th. I want to watch this system. Kind of a piece of energy that flies through across the Ohio Valley. We're getting into the 19th to the 20th of the month. And this delivers a quick-hitting, moderate winter storm across the Northeast as we're getting into the 20th, about a week from today. And then all of a sudden, the cold air drops down. We're done with that. Then what happens next? This is the time frame of interest to me. Okay? You see all the green down the Gulf of Mexico? We got a lot of moisture bubbling up. We got pieces of northern stream energy diving down. Is anything going to emerge out the Gulf? On the latest Euro, something tries to right in here, but it's a little bit later. We're getting into the 23rd. And it just never is able to do it. So in that entire time frame that I've been watching, which is about from right here, I would say this is the 20th, all the way, which is next Monday, all the way to the following Friday. So 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, into the 26th. Nothing shows up on the Euro. Okay, but I don't want you to get bummed out one way or the other. I don't want you to get overly excited because I'm going to show you the GFS and it's going to excite you if you're a winter weather fan. And I don't want you to get overly bummed out. There's a lot of moisture just waiting to get tapped into. And if you're a winter weather fan, Sorry guys, my bad. Been dealing with the sneezes lately over the last like week of videos. But if you're a winter weather fan, you follow the weather pretty actively, you know that a suppressed look at this range a week out is a great thing, because 9 times out of 10, the moisture likes to pull north eventually. So you got moisture down here, but it's a cold and dry look. Okay, now what about the GFS? And I'm going to show you the 12Z GFS first. Same thing. I'm watching a couple areas. Here comes our first system. Going to bring us a soggy weekend. This is Saturday evening. Rain across the deep south, unfortunately. We got some snow across areas in the northeast. A really interior northeast snow. There's a little bit of snow riding down the Rockies. And then I want to watch this. And the latest 18Z GFS has this too. Pops off a low pressure. Enough cold air has moved in at this point. And I want to watch areas all the way down to the mid-south with this. This is getting into this coming Sunday evening. We got snow breaking out across the mid-Atlantic, all the way down to the southern Alps. And then we get a quick-hitting snowstorm that could dump. The potential is there. I think the pattern supports it for a few to several inches of snow across southern New England, an area of the country that really has got gypped with snow so far. And then that moves on out. And then here comes the cold air. This is the time frame I'm watching, the 20th through about the 25th. Give or take a day. Cold air starts to ooze down. There's that 540 line. You like that zonal look from it. You don't want to dig too far over here or too far over here. It's a nice spatial look, if you will, broad look. Is there anything going to come? Here it comes as we're getting into the 21st. Here comes winter weather breaking out deep down the south into Texas. Louisiana, look at this winter weather breaking out across the deep south. You take a closer look at it because I know people want to see, hey, let's look a little bit closer at this. I get it. And then look at it. We got a winter storm for the panhandle of Florida, for southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, Louisiana, the Carolinas. You got snow breaking out. And listen, the pattern supports something like this. But this is just one run. The Euro showed nothing in this time frame, but it shows just a Carolina special, Georgia special, especially the coastal areas, and drops tons of snow in areas of the Carolinas and the eastern Carolinas especially. Okay? So what about the current GFS? Did it do something similar? Well, it likes that time frame too, but let's work our way to that. Here comes our first system, rain for the south, interior northeast snow, maybe a little bit of snow for, maybe like Pittsburgh and Ohio. And then, we got to watch this snow riding down with the trough. I think this will look a lot more aggressive. I think you would follow the Euro more so with this. So I think we're going to have accumulating snow this weekend for like Denver. And then everything breaks apart. Once again, a low tries to develop right into here. And we got snow breaking out across central, middle to eastern Tennessee, riding into, it's pretty far south at this point. This would dump snow across eastern Tennessee. It's not a forecast. Okay, this is getting into Sunday, January 19th. Look, it's right up here. Look at the snow, heavy, moving across northern Virginia. And then look at the snow across D.C., a swath of accumulating snow all the way into New York City, into Boston, later this coming weekend. Sunday-ish would be the time frame. And then once again, we get into the time frame that I like for the South. Cold air starts to bog down. Are we going to get anything that starts bubbling up? You can already tell there's a little bit of snow showing up deep down Texas right there. And we keep this going. Man, the cold air is intense this run. Is anything going to pop off? There's a lot of energy showing up here. And I'm going to zoom into this. Look, you can see it. Look at the blue. It's snowing in Charleston on this run Tuesday evening, January the 21st. Don't tell everybody and their dog that Mitch said it's going to snow next Tuesday evening in Charleston. We're just looking at model guides. We're trying to sniff out time frames. I know the people who are regularly tuning in are probably getting annoyed with me saying that, but I feel like I gotta say it. And I read the comments and I can tell people are just, they're buying into these model swings. I show you this, and a lot of people would say, Mitch, you probably shouldn't show this, and I would kind of agree with them, but I show it to you guys so we can start to narrow down a time frame, and then boom, we have a time frame. And then boom, we're tracking something. I hope that makes sense. But the latest GFS pops a low off. It's kind of a late bloomer, the definition of a late bloomer. And all of a sudden, it starts pouring snow as far south as almost north of Jacksonville, Tybee Island. It's snowing on the South Carolina coastline, and then it turns into just a Carolina coastal special. Look at it. There's tons of cold air. And then it kind of just drifts off. And does anything come after that? Well, I mean, it tries to, but at the end of the day, we're really just watching next week. So that would be like early to mid to maybe just sometime next work week. So what I'll tell you is a lot of people are probably going to be worried before I kind of switch it to other models. A lot of people are probably worried, Mitch, is it going to be too cold and dry? I would never worry about that if you live in the South and you're a winter weather fan. Ever. Ever. And the reason I say that is because 9 times out of 10, you're going to go from too cold and too dry to all of a sudden having temperature issues. And if you go back to the winter storm that just happened a few days ago, if you remember, if you were tracking it with me all along, I was saying, hey, it looks very cold. Then all of a sudden, what happened? Well, we dealt with temperature issues, and we ended up with a whopping like ½ inch of snow in Charlotte when you're calling for 1 to 3. And that's what happens because you don't think you're going to have temperature issues, but you're always going to have temperature issues in the South, almost always. So let's like the idea of suppression right now. We're not getting any kind of fancy, crazy model runs. That's a good thing, in my opinion. You hang on to that for as long as possible if you're a winter weather fan in the South. Even for like the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, heck, even up here. And I know I'm not mentioning Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio much, but listen, I would say the pattern supports more of a suppressed look, and that would not support a major winter storm for you guys, or even a winter storm, but that could change. Now, the Canadian still loves the idea. I would say the Canadian doesn't do much with that kind of northeast heavy snowfall event, but the Canadian and the Icon, I will add, still loves the idea of this trough dropping really far west. So that would bring more winter weather for the southern Rockies, for the southern plains. So this is like next Monday. This would bring a wintry weather event, a huge overrunning event, but it would keep most of the immediate southeast, which I consider Georgia, the Carolinas, and Florida, southern Alabama. It would bring mainly rain for you guys because the cold basically drops too far to the west and it basically buckles the jet stream, which then it's kind of like a, trying to relate it, something like almost like a trampoline. You jump in the middle of it and then the outer edges kind of spike up, right? Jump in the middle of it causes the outer edges to spike up. The jet's like that too. If you dive the jet too far like this, it's going to cause this area over here to buckle like that. And that's what happens on the Canadian run. It dives the trough too much like this, causes the southeast ridge to spike. Therefore, all your energy just kind of does like this, okay, instead of like this on the Euro and the GFS. But the Canadian is sticking to its guns. It continues to like the idea of more of a southern plains, the mid-south, the mid-Atlantic kind of deal. And it just has nasty ice in North Carolina. And then it turns into a more substantial event for the Northeast next week. So that's all model guidance as far as operational runs. What about the Euro ensemble, the GFS ensemble? What about the snow footprint? What are we watching as far as what does the ensemble support this? So you have the Euro ensemble, has 51 members, and then you have the GFS ensemble, has 21 members. Blends it all together, creates a mean or average. So this is still not a snowfall forecast, guys. And what you're going to notice is, you see as we get into the end of this coming weekend, into early next week, the average for snow begins to show up down here. We start to get a few tenths of an inch, and you start to get a footprint of snow. Now, this is as we're starting to get into like next Wednesday morning. It's still everywhere. But if you notice, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama has a higher snowfall mean than, say, like most of Arkansas, Missouri, and areas further north. That tells me the pattern supports more of a suppressed look. And we continue to go take this all the way out to about 300 hours out. And some of this begins to fill in, but you notice down here, it definitely shows up down here fastest. Now, what about the GFS ensemble? And I think we have the newest run. I don't think it's going to take us as far out as what we have with the Euro ensemble, but same thing. We start to get into this weekend. There's a signal for some snow riding down the Rockies, and then we start to get into the end of the weekend, and then we get into like a week from today, Monday the 20th, and then we take it to, Tuesday, we take it into Wednesday, and there it is. Okay, it's starting to show the footprint of snow, winter weather, and this isn't even showing ice, which I'll show you here in a second. It's starting to show that foot, and this is as far out as it goes, it looks like. Yep. And this only goes out to Wednesday morning. I would say that you're probably adding on to these totals because the pattern is favorable all next week for the South, in my opinion. But I mean, you got a higher snowfall average down here for the deep South and the Southern Plains than you do across the Northern Plains. So pretty wild stuff. Now, the Euro ensemble, as far as the eastern U.S., what do we got? Same thing. As we're getting into early next week, that's when the members start to show up and you start to get these further south showings of snowfall average. Okay, so this is the mean, the average, and, not overly impressive one way or the other, but it's still trying to figure out the pattern too. And I would add that the reason you're not seeing, I would say, as higher totals in this area is because there's a lot of runs that are suppressed. There's no storm at all. It's just cold and dry, which, like I said, you like to see. But you certainly got almost to an inch snowfall mean, even outside the mountains in North Carolina and South Carolina. Even a little bit of a signal in Georgia, and it increases the further west you get and the further north you get. So, but if you look at the GFS ensemble, and like I said, this is only going to take us out to about 10 days out, and we'll take it all the way through, and it's still going. This is all the way to just Wednesday morning, so this is still running. And as you can tell in the last couple frames, it begins to increase. But I mean, all the way just till Wednesday morning, you already have over an inch snowfall mean, say in Charlotte. Not much yet for like the I-95 corridor, but if you were to keep this going a couple more frames, it could fill in. This pattern does support just an East Coast crawler. Well, we can get a storm that just crawls up the East Coast. Now, we are probably going to have a lack of blocking in Greenland. This might prevent storms from going right up the East Coast. But we'll have to see. We don't know that yet. But, I mean, look at the snowfall average, say, in Alabama, Mississippi, northern Georgia. You got members showing up. Here's just a closer look at the Southeast. And, I mean, this is just going out through Wednesday morning, the 22nd, and I mean, you already got over a half an inch snowfall mean in like Columbia, over an inch in the Greenville-Spartanburg area. Same thing with kind of Atlanta. So, yeah, I mean, you even got a little bit of a signal down here in Florida. So, I mean, yeah, guys, I mean, this is certainly, I'm telling you got to watch out for the South. And one thing I'll mention, guys, is the ice average. And you can look at this on the Euro Ensemble off Pivotal Weather. You're going to get ice out of this, more than likely. With overrunning, when you have moisture overrunning that shallow Arctic air, normally you get mixed precipitation winter-wise. And I know that's a bummer. I was reminded in the last winter storm here in Columbia how much I just do not like sleet and freezing rain. I used to say, I don't mind sleet, but man, sleet just piles up so slow. And the freezing rain is just flat out depressing and dangerous, right? But I mean, you have this ice average. Look, in the low country of South Carolina, down into Georgia, I mean, down to Louisiana. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid signal for winter weather pretty far south. Now, the last thing we'll round this off with is nerding out with you guys a little bit, kind of explain the pattern, right? So the blues, that's lower pressure. It's a trough. It brings cold air, brings unsettled weather, brings energy. And then the yellows, the oranges, the reds, that's higher pressure, that's ridging, typically brings warmer than average temperatures, things like that. So it makes sense that as we're moving here in time, we have this brief ridge spike into this weekend. This will bring a brief warming period for all of 2 to 3 days at most. But as we're starting to get into Friday, you can already see what's happening. Spiking of the ridge up into Alaska. I call that a negative EPO. That's going to dislodge cold air into this trough, into this dip in the jet stream. At the same time, you see this blue down here in the Pacific starting to ride into the western U.S. and central U.S. That is energy moving off the Pacific. So we got cold air dropping down along with energy in this trough. We got energy coming off the Pacific. They're going to meet, and you're going to have an opportunity for something wild to happen, in my opinion. Now, it's probably going to take a few days into the pattern, but it's going to be there. We continue to progress this forward. And I mean, look at this, guys. This is all the way into, about a week from today. 6.5 days. Ridging, even over. I mean, we can almost, it's a weak positive PNA. There's just enough ridging over the immediate western U.S. to certainly call it a slightly positive PNA. It's a negative EPO. It spikes up all the way up to Alaska, and just a ton of cold air dropping down to this, dramatic dip in the jet stream that's digging down just like that. So energy coming through here, energy diving through here, a connection right into here is possible with a winter storm. And I just can't tell you how impressive this basically dip in the jet stream is. Bringing all this cold air. So that's what the pattern is setting up as. And listen, you can see the energy in the atmosphere. If I look at the Euro, which by the way doesn't even show a winter storm for the south. We're starting Friday evening. You see all these kind of vibrant colors, wisping around, all the circles and stuff like that. That is energy in the atmosphere. And if you look right here, you can see the kind of the ridge. Let's use a different color. You can see kind of the ridge right in here, and you can see that blue line. See how it kind of drops down like that? Well, you just got all kinds of energy right in here, energy right in here. You got energy coming through here. And you're just waiting for one of these short waves, what we call it, pieces of energy to kind of connect the dots. Or just honestly, you don't even really need a phasing system with this. You have such a spiking of the ridge and a dramatic drop like a roller coaster. Some northern stream energy can dive down deep enough to where it can dig and then be able to tilt neutrally and then negatively and then turn into a big system, a big winter storm for areas pretty far south, because it's able to just dig and then go right back up, get stronger, and then as it gets stronger, it wants to gain latitude, just like any kind of low pressure in the northern hemisphere. So a lot of energy in the atmosphere for sure, guys. That's all I got. We'll do it again tomorrow morning. We'll see what's going on. And as we get closer to this time frame, obviously the confidence is already sky high about the cold air. But confidence is going to start to go one way or the other as far as winter weather. The first thing, obviously, we need to figure out is, hey, are we going to get a quick hitting winter storm for the Northeast this weekend? What about the snow for Denver and, the Rockies? And then all eyes are definitely going to be on, I would say, the southern tier of the country and the eastern U.S. for a winter storm threat as we get into next week. Talk to you guys later. God bless. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.